Good morning. This is the Richland County Board of Commissioners on October the 29th already. And we've Commissioner Banks, Mears, and Vero here, Stacy Crawl, our clerk, Andrew Keller, our county administrator, our prosecutor is here. Jody, why don't you introduce your staff or let them introduce themselves?
Absolutely. Good morning, gentlemen. With me sitting at table here is my civil chief. This is Amanda Mittis. Behind me then is Alicia Baisley. She is my office administrator.
Okay. And somewhere around here is Carl Hunnell.
He's down there.
Okay, I see. And from the Richland Source and from WMFD, we got Archie McMillan. And so we're here to, have hearings on the budget. And I will say that looking at the budgets coming in, some are way out of line and some are very good. And Jody, I'm a little concerned with how high total budget is compared to what we had in mind. And I'll give you a chance to defend it. Start with letting us know what you think.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate just an opportunity. And I ask that the commissioners maybe keep an open mind and their ears open, because I understand there are strong feelings just already on paper. And I get that from your perspective. I understand why you have concerns. Some of the reasons that our budget is maybe larger or maybe more surprisingly larger, I guess, from your perspective than what we had originally submitted. I would start first maybe on the equipment line. One of the increases there is an interface. The clerk's office has to go to electronic filing beginning next year. Part of that is going to, is my understanding, and it's still very new, very young in its inception, because our current clerk doesn't have all those details worked out from her vendor yet either. So we're just trying to project. So Denise has indicated that once they have the interface up and running, it's going to require us, similar to the civil filings, the plaintiff has to enter all of the complaints. So that would be our office entering every single indictment, every single charge, is my understanding. So that is something that we had not, or we do not currently do. That would be additional duties or obligations. So in order to prevent adding an additional personnel in that spot, the interface would be the answer that would permit our operating system to talk to the clerk's operating system and vice versa. So that would be a full two-way integration. The initial startup is projected to be $50,000 with a $15,000 annual subscription fee then every year thereafter. So that
on the order, are the courts mandating this?
that came from,
It's ORC law.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
The legislator did it.
that's correct.
Are we required to start January 1?
No, it's not my understanding. It has to be in place next year. And truth be told, our current vendor with the clerk's office, they won't be ready. They're just in early conversations, but they anticipate being up and ready and running in 2025. And so I will have to be prepared to react to that new mandate. So we're talking about approximately 1,000 indictments every year. We are on pace at this point to track over 1,000 indictments. If the trend continues as to where we are, that would be an increase from years past. In looking at the past 10 years, the last time we had over 1,000 indictments would have been in 2018. And I would project 2024 will be similar to 2018 as far as those indictments that were filed. So if you think about a person entering every single one of those, I do have indictments that have multiple counts. I did have one indictment this year, well over 100 counts. So if you can imagine a person manually entering, whether that's the clerk's office or our office, it's a person. So that's why I would submit that that is a necessary cost.
Big picture, does it save us labor time?
It should. I mean,
50 years I've heard that, haven't seen it happen yet.
well, I hear from,
Never.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I know a big concern from the commissioner's portion is the costs essentially of that benefit package. That is a cost that our office or the electeds don't typically see. So when you think about $50,000 initially and then 15 every year, if you're talking about a $15,000 salary versus I believe our benefits is beyond $25,000 to $35,000 package, the commissioners will be saving money with that by permitting the interface to go through. So that is a significant increase there. A couple of the other increases are largely due to the request. I am asking for an expansion of my office, essentially the head count. I have done, I think, all that we can do within the office, despite the volume of cases that we are bringing in, both on the civil as well as the criminal side. Prosecution has changed in just the last 5 years significantly. And we also have additional mandates from from the legislature that is taking or requiring time. So when the legislature had mandated, we talked a lot about Marcy's Law last year when we were talking about the victim advocate. Just prior to that, as I reflect back as to where our time is being spent, the legislature also mandated that we have bind over bond hearings essentially. So every case that is bound over from municipal court on a preliminary hearing, we have to have a hearing here in common police court within 72 hours. That also includes anybody that's arrested or brought in on probation violations. So that is happening every single day. Starts at 1 o'clock. It's usually done by 2 o'clock. There are days there it goes over. When we have our indictments, the initial arraignments on those indictment days, those summons, those are lengthy days as well. So there's a time that we weren't using or we weren't over here in court, taking us out of our office, away from office prep. That has changed drastically since 21, 22. Further, when I talk about prosecution, the nature of prosecution has changed in the sense of the type of evidence that we are reviewing. More and more and more, we have downloads and downloads, the digital downloads. We're talking about phones, we're talking about computers, we're talking about vehicles. We are downloading vehicles. And when you download all of that data, that is voluminous. We had one case earlier this year that we prosecuted, and that was 27 pages of information. That is something we did not have just 3-4 years ago. You can imagine how long it takes to go through 27,000 pages. So that's a portion that is taking up our time. And we also, just going back 2, 3, 4 years ago, we are thankfully, and I'm proud of our law enforcement partners in that all of them have body cam at this point or dash cam. Some agencies have both. In addition to that, our 2 state prisons now have cameras throughout the institutions, as well as all the CEOs are wearing body cams. That's all changed in just those 2-3 years difference. What does that mean for prosecution? That is additional evidence that we have to review, both for when we're considering charges, as well as when we are considering or we're preparing for prosecution for the actual trial, aligning those exhibits, etc. It's all very time consuming. That is a dramatic change. So with that dramatic change, that need for that additional time, that's why we're asking for the additional prosecutors in addition to the volume of cases that have gone up. We are fortunate in Richland County. We have a very active law enforcement community. These law enforcement officers are working hard. They're very diligent and they're very keen as to what they're observing, which results in more cases coming into our office. They're protecting our citizens. I need to further back those officers. I need to further protect those citizens, just like those officers. That volume, it all trickles downwards. So that's also, I can talk about numbers as well as within the criminal division. What has also changed on the appellate front gentlemen, is we have seen a 400% increase in the amount of appeals that have been filed in common pleas court. So in 2020, we had 10 total appeals. In 21, we had 36 appeals filed. In 22, we had 48 appeals filed. In 23, there was 45 appeals filed. And in 24, that we had 57 appeals filed. Those appeals, if we go back to 20 and just before that, our office had two people, a juvenile prosecutor. Well, we had two people doing both juvenile and appellate. Mr. Bishop had reviewed our numbers and did not believe that it was necessary to maintain that. So at that point, he did cut that down to one total position, a full-time position, juvenile into appellate. That one person was doing all of that. Now, 10 appeals, I think, is certainly manageable, but when you move up to the 36, the 45, and at this point where we are, we're actually at, I just had 4 appeals come in last week, so we're at 61 appeals this year so far to date. That becomes unmanageable when we are also seeing a significant increase in cases in our juvenile court. My last check, we had over 300 matters filed in juvenile court, and that is up from in 2020, that's up from 138 matters. So a juvenile prosecutor is no longer able to manage all of those. We have split those obligations amongst those two. But that's going to then fall into why we are leading to or requesting a paralegal position within that civil division, because that's a secretarial assistant that used to assist civil is now, her needs or her demands are now largely being consumed. In fact, to the point where civil division hasn't been able to use the benefit of an assistant, administrative assistant, because those demands on juvenile and appellate are so significant. Appeals, now it may not seem that, 57 appeals or 62 appeals where we're at, 61 appeals where we're at doesn't sound like a lot, but those appeals are volumes upon volumes long. If it's a full trial, and we have been active in our office as far as our prosecutions, those, you can always count on those being appeals. But what we're seeing now, these appeals, we're appealing change of pleas, and that is something that we've never done or never had in years past. So I think that is consistent with maybe other people's observations outside the legal community. You hear comments that society is just more litigious in general. Perhaps that's what we're now seeing within our appellate division, is the desire to appeal a change of plea. Regardless of what the driving force is as to the why we're seeing these increases, those are the numbers that we're working with at this point within that appellate division, which is ultimately leading to significant time being vested in those appeals. We had, if the commissioners were to grant that expansion on that additional assistant prosecutor, again, we are asking for, we would also ask for that additional increase with the paralegal within the civil division. Now, we can structure that position such that my proposal is to pay each of the 3 civil attorneys. I want all of 3 civil attorneys to be cross-trained. I guess maybe a term we might be familiar with. Everyone handling the delinquent land tax foreclosure matters. I can pay a portion of each of the civil attorneys' salaries out of that DTAC fund, such that we can then fund the salary with those freed up general fund monies of the paralegal, if that makes sense. I am asking, though, if the commissioners, it is true, we would be asking the commissioners to fund then that benefit package. So the PERS, the Medicare, the Medicaid, all of those items there, the health care and such. My civil chief, Ms. Mittis, is present. I'd like the commissioners, if they would indulge me, to listen a little bit about what we're experiencing in the civil division to help understand how we would utilize a paralegal in that role, please.
Ready? What I'm looking for is a full-time certified paralegal to help support our department in a couple different ways. Like Jody said, there have been a lot of changes since 2021. That's when we implemented Matrix and started really reporting the activity of the division. So my data dates back to 2021. And that is actually the last time that our office was, or our division was fully staffed. So fully staffed from my perspective means you've got a chief, you've got a township specialist and a tax foreclosure specialist. And since 2021, we struggled with the human resources. In January of 24, we have finally returned to that status quo. And what we've seen over the last 10 months has been a return to, we are tracking with those same numbers from 21, and we're actually on track to that. And I anticipate that there's going to be further growth in this division for a couple of reasons. We're presently engaged in some complex litigation for a couple of our clients. We're engaged in some down in the Supreme Court with the auditor. And that has been a very time-consuming, a huge learning curve on some of those very complex business-related matters that we're representing them in. We are also in communication with the Auditor of State, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General's office. We're dealing with some really technical and high-level matters for our statutory clients that have required a great deal of attention, communication, and efficiency. Not to mention those things that we're doing day to day for our townships and some of our smaller agencies in the county. Those things are no less significant or urgent than they were 3 years ago. And like Jody said, I think there's a feeling of, could we be sued for this? And nobody wants to get sued. Nobody wants to do something that would entice that. Everybody's trying to mitigate that liability. And so we do get a lot of questions out of that fear. So those things are definitely driving our client interactions. In addition to that, we have decided within the office that the civil division is going to more fully assist with the public records requests that come into our office. And as you guys know, the public records requests are they're important to respond to in a timely fashion. They're critical to respond to in a thoughtful and legally appropriate fashion. Redactions, withholdings, reviewing what can be a lot of material. And so we've taken that on within our division. And that's one thing that I can see a paralegal really assisting with. They would have the ability to understand our filing system, understand and review what is typically the criminal files that are requested under those public records requests. And then they would be able to do a preliminary sort of review, withholding and redacting. And then the attorneys in our office could respond to questions kind of on behalf of our office in a more similar fashion that we deal with our external clients. So we tend to not go through the process of pulling records and reviewing, answer the legal questions that they have on those matters. So what we're looking for is somebody to assist with the influx of public records requests that we're seeing within the office, and then also finish out that process reviewing legally within our division. So we have seen since the beginning of 24, 20 public records requests, and that's to our office. And that again is tracking with 23 numbers, we were at 28, 22 we had 9, and 21 we had 22 public records. So we are very much on track. And I anticipate we'll see at least a half dozen more before the end of the year this year. So we are seeing the numbers of requests, and they're they're for some of our high profile murder cases that we've had. So they're very big files, boxes upon boxes of information that needs to be gone through and assessed. And like I said, reviewed for withholdings and redactions. Right now, we're turning around most of those requests on average 35 days. So I know that reducing that turnaround time is critical. People are looking for that delayed response in order to issue a mandamus from the Supreme Court. So reducing that turnaround time is going to reduce the likelihood that we are then engaged in litigation over our response time. So it's kind of a mitigating factor for us. Now, typically we're turning those around most frequently 8 or 9 days, around a week, but it can be up to 144 days was our longest turnaround time to completion on one of those. So the support is necessary to reduce our liability internally on that function. But we're not just seeing that increase in public records requests internally, it's also our external clients. So I know you guys get a fair few of public records requests, so do all of our other county agencies and clients. So responding to those promptly is something else that a paralegal could help us with. Each agency, each client, they have a specific role. They do things a little differently. They have different types of records that they retain over time that we like to carefully review and understand holistically before we're advising on what exceptions apply or what needs to be made public record. Also, I mean, the types of requests you get vary from agency to agency, depending on who's making those requests. Sometimes they can be very sophisticated requests from attorneys. Sometimes they can be very basic requests from people who are simply looking for more information on a topic so that they can understand it better. Reviewing both the records available and the requests that are made, that's time consuming, it's nuanced. It needs somebody who can dedicate that time as well as understand the technicalities of public record law. So beyond the 20 public records requests that we received internally, we've dealt with 33 matters outside from external clients that have to do with those types of public record requests. So I never want to diminish the importance of the public record. It's pivotal that we respond. It's important that we have technical understanding and that we're able to do that in a reasonable time. So that's why I'm asking for a full-time certified paralegal to assist not only our office, but the county in those responses as well. You guys have any questions about that? Okay.
Thank you.
I don't believe there's any other highlights. I'm going through my mental checklist that I wanted to speak on. Willing to answer any questions.
How many people at the beginning of 24 worked in your office?
That were, I had vacancies. Are you talking about those vacant, including those vacant spots that were already approved? I just want to
Give
be
me-
sure.
Give me both.
Okay, that would have been 27. Is that correct? 27, and then we're asking for 30 for 25.
Okay, and 27, were all those positions filled, or those are the 27 that were,
27 are currently filled.
okay. So you're asking for 3 more for next year,
There was the one position that was added.
right?
So then there would be a total of 3 for next year that we've are respectfully requesting consideration for.
Attorneys and paralegals.
That is correct.
Make a very compelling case based on the.
I don't come to you, to the commissioners lightly. I understand the demands of all of my peers. But if there wasn't a need, I would not have made the request. And if I don't make the ask, I guess the answer is always no unless you ask, right? So, and even when you ask, it's still no, right, Tony?
We're listening.
Forth and review this. It's quite a big ask.
I understand. You're on.
Have any ideas where we can sharpen the pencil on this? Feel free to get a hold of us, before we're gonna review everybody's and then get
Yes.
back and start whittling down. And if you have any advice where we can save a few nickels, please let us know. Today, but in a few weeks.
I absolutely, I'll be more than willing to discuss. I understand it's all a compromise.
I think your office has done an exceptional job. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. Sources the county has to be able to continue that fine work. And, a couple of the increases obviously are warranted. You had 2 new attorneys pass the bar recently. That's great news. So those increases are.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone's consideration. And certainly respect the ultimate decision of the commissioners.
Very
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead from 24 to 25. Tell me.
It is, hold on a second, I'll get it to you exactly, I just learned it. So, yeah, it's pretty substantial here, Carl, hold on a second. In it? We're
24%.
still on the record. so-
I'll talk to you on Tuesday then. I think you call Tuesday.
Okay. So their request, if you, now again, the year's not finished, okay? But the 26% increase, Carl. From what they estimate 2024 to end at to what they're asking for 2025, a 26% increase.
Who's dollar?
Here, I'll just email them to you.
The budget.
Yeah, when the first budget starts with a 26% increase, you're like, oh my gosh. So
24%. What do you mean?
I use these two right here. This and this.
Okay, I was using this.
I was using what they submitted for their 2024
Okay,
estimate.
So you're adding those numbers.
Well, I guess you're right. Well, 26 and 27 data. Yeah, I guess, well, if you do it this way, well, Carl, hold on, let me do it this way. Here. I sent that to you there. Let me rephrase that, Carl. 23.8%, yeah.
Up, Dennis.
Matt, what's up with you? Hanging in there?
Better. Good.
Hey, you know what? They got that bridge in and so now nobody's going down Woodland.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Like 9 day.
Day. Well, I go that way because I live over off of Middle Belleville.
Yes.
So to Miss Trumbull to go had it permanent. I always did
Right.
Trumbull, so then I had to start going through it and I kept thinking,
Every motorcycle, every truck with a missing muffler.
right, even late in the evenings, like when I would come through at 7:30, I'd be like, why are people still dragging this
On
around?
Trimble Road.
Okay, it's 9:30. We're back in session. And we have been joined by Children's Service and Children's Support, self as well as your staff.
Hi, I'm Janet Brock, the director of the Child Support Agency. This is Kayla Dalby. She's our HR and fiscal person. And then we also brought along with us Raven Davis, who is also our fiscal. She's started to learn how to do the budget and stuff. So we wanted her to see the full circle when she was helping us do it. So we kind of wanted to see how it happened, what came of it. It looks like we are going to come in under budget. I mean, right now it looks like we're at a loss, but we haven't spent anything on course of this year or on workers' comp. So we think that we'll be under budget at the end of this year.
Keep repeating that. I love to hear that.
And we look like we're on schedule to be under budget for next year. Probably not as much as what we normally like to be, but still, we've got it right around 23,000, I think it is. It'll like to make these numbers tiny for me.
23,000.
That we should be under budget next year. So I think I've been doing this for close to 10 years now. So and I think we've come in under budget every year. So we're still looking forward to doing that. We are not requesting any money from the commissioner's office at this time.
We'll repeat that again, please.
Is that another good one? Yep, I don't think we have probably at least
This year makes 17 years.
17 years since we've had to.
That in the minutes, you know.
There you go. It doesn't mean that we may not at some point, but yeah.
Dog warden gets money out of the general fund because we love dogs and so does everyone else. So,
We do love dogs.
great.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But yeah, so we look like we're still doing strong and
Staffing, because when you look at it, you've had some significant turnover.
yeah, we do have,
Let's,
and we have retirements that happen. It's funny because we're kind of split right now even. We've had people that are 20+ years and we have people that are, 50.
retire, rehire.
Yeah, that are just, so it's kind of hard. It's one of those jobs where nobody's ever happy. You're either taking money from somebody or not getting them money and you're messing with people's children and their money. So,
We're like sports referees,
yeah,
right?
yes.
Do a good job, no one says a peep. If you are perceived to have done a bad job based on a call during the game, you're gonna hear about
You're
it.
gonna hear about it, yeah.
Right.
And I think it's hard to find people that want to commit to that for long term. So, because we are a small agency, so there's not a huge room to move. And it seems like when we do get ready to retire, the administrative staff, it's like 3 or 4 of us all go at the same time and then it lets people move up. So it's kind of, you have to be dedicated and you have to be willing to try to, work through some of the days when you just got every bad call there was, because it doesn't, you're gonna get one at least once a week. So you just have to learn how to, and I think it's hard for some people to, this day and age, just, people keep getting more upset, so.
Question I have for you guys, and believe it or not, I know people say, oh, it's budget season, it's time to say, no, that's not true. We just want an equitable and fair budget.
Right.
A couple years ago, your line staff number was at 17. I know today you're down to you're proposing 14. Far be it from us to stand in the way of reductions, but do you feel you can adequately run the agency at 14?
Well, no, 14 for the line staff, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, we've got in here proposed to hire 1. We were gonna do 2. But we have noticed that our caseload has went down over the past 4 to 5 years, I think it is. And we were actually down at the conference, the fall conference, just a couple of weeks ago. And it's not just happening to us, it's happening over the whole state.
Attribute that to.
Well, what I attribute it to is there's a lot of zero orders coming. There's a lot of, you don't even use a private attorney anymore. They go and get divorced or they go and settle something and then they make the child support order zero, which then leaves us nothing to do. We're not collecting for anything or doing anything. Now, eventually they're going to come back to us and say, oh, he said he was going to pay for this, or she said she was going to pay for that, and they don't.
So it's the courts that are.
So it's kind of flattening out for a little while. So that's why we thought we will just see if we can hire one, hold at it and see. We also have contract coming up next fall. So we want to kind of see where that goes too before we commit to hiring it, more.
I'm looking at budget, you're gonna fix a few more things than you have been, which is probably a very good idea. And then indirect costs is the only thing that seemed to go up quite a bit. What's the indirect costs that are going up?
So we were paying rent for our building. The indirect cost is always a couple of years behind. So they're just now bringing in the calculation that we no longer pay rent. Our indirect costs go up instead.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not paying rent anymore. The cost went up.
Right.
Kind of took its place, I guess would be the best way to put it. So when we were paying rent, our indirect cost was lower. We're no longer paying rent on the building. Now we're paying more into repairs or anything that has to be with the actual.
Any other questions?
A mature budget in the sense that you guys do an excellent job. You have all the line items done. The staffing was the concern, right? It's not just always about, yes, that number goes down, but if we'll defer to our director and our management staff, if you feel you can adequately staff it at 14. And then, hey, look, if we come back in a couple months, you say we'd like to bring someone on, at least we know we have a little bit of wiggle room because a couple years ago we were at 17 at line staff. So I don't have any more questions.
Okay, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you guys. Put this one back.
Iris,
Okay, thank you.
Let's do some other first. Okay, can we certify the record of proceeding for October the 24th?
so move.
Banks,
Yes.
Pharaoh,
Yes.
Okay, can we approve the requisitions?
So move.
Second.
Banks.
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Mears.
Yes.
And Jean Taddy has asked us to reappoint 2 transit board members. And can we get a motion to do that?
A motion to appoint Scott Hyman and Trey Turner. Again, this would be Scott's second full term and we'll keep him as chair because he's doing such a good job. And this would be Trey Turner's first full term. So that'd be my motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Commissioner Pharaoh,
Yes.
Okay. And can we accept the quote for replacing 2 hot water heaters in the jail from Standard Plumbing for $4,980?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Commissioner Pharaoh,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
And can we accept a quote for the entrance door at CAC and from J&B Acoustical for $7,133?
Second.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Pharaoh,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Any questions, Carl?
Obviously, that starts this morning.
The process started with those people preparing all this, but yes,
The public participation started.
you got it.
What are you looking at in terms of your standpoint, realizing one of 3 percentage of increase that's going to be acceptable overall from 2030? How much what do you know about anticipated revenues for 25 at this point? What are you thinking in terms of growing overall? Go ahead in the general.
We aren't at the point yet where we'll have we always do have Pat come in last for that reason. And I'll have some conversations with him behind the scenes on anticipated revenues. Reason why we're holding off on that answer yet, because during the course of budget discussions, there's going to be some immediate. I would presume there's going to be some changes along the way, so we don't discuss where we are in terms of where we need to be until all the hearings are done. So I know that's not answering your question, but we like to go through all the hearings if we need. I think Daryl has asked the prosecutor to make some changes or look at that. That's a pretty substantial request. We've already increased headcount in that office by one. I think there's a strong likelihood we'll increase it by yet another. But I think when you're asking for 24% budgetary increases, it's pretty substantial. So we're hoping that she will take a look and she'll communicate with Cliff. So we don't exactly know where we need to be yet because we've only through 2 budget hearings so far.
Has every department submitted a budget, and how much are you thinking you have to come back off the request?
I'm still waiting on one budget.
Yep.
And I need that to complete the revenue number, so that we'll know.
Tell me whose budget that is.
It's the building department. Got a death in the family, so we're played.
And anticipating sometime in December.
And we will, as we always say, pass a true balanced budget. That has not changed. We hold steadfast to our budget policy that says we will pass a balanced budget. And again, to be clear, that excludes any unassigned cash balance.
Thank you.
Want to recess?
It is 9:42 and we will recess until 10 o'clock, and we will come back for a bid opening for the 4th courtroom. In session. Oh, no, I'm not. I gotta wait. Tell me when I am. I'll White buttons on.
There you go.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We are back in session and we're going to have a bid opening for the fourth courtroom. So open your bids, gentlemen.
What's the estimate real quick here?
725,000.
What can we do this time? Got it. ICS, I do see their bid bond.
ICS?
Imhoff Construction Services.
Oh, okay, I see.
I got 551. I believe that's a 373. All right, did I get that three right?
551
373.
addendum,
What's that?
for all three addenda recognized.
Hold on. Telling me. The peers. Oh, yeah, I think we're good.
I've got Adina, 4th Street, Mansfield. I do have a bid bond. Estimate is 582, 274. You say addendum, you talk about the like insulation bat replacement, this is a separate item.
Well, that's the,
The line item separate below.
I'm looking for the bid form.
That's $3,500.
Okay.
Okay.
I have Assured Partners of Ohio LLC. They are out of Richfield. And their bid is 794,000. And then they have insulation, is that the? And that was additional 885.
Gosh, do I see your addendum in here? Well, both yours are copy are the same, but Brad, right, we have the addendum, correct?
They have to acknowledge that they received all three addenda.
Okay, yeah, I see 1, 2, and 3. Okay, good.
Okay.
So I have Scout. We see a bid bond. They're at 671,823.
One here from Assured Partners. Got a check in here addressed Cook Company.
Book company.
All right, we'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got Stevens Construction. Do have a bid bond, I do have acknowledgement of the addendums. Cost estimate of $642,343.12. Line item for the insulation bat replacement is $380.
I think that's 5 that we have received.
Snow Roberts. Yeah.
Thank you.
I need.
Based doing that, I will make a comment that the view that tab, bid bond, and the bid. Make it so much easier up here.
Muff did acknowledge the three, and
That it?
I believe that is it, yeah.
What questions would you like to ask?
What are the three addenda that we're talking about?
During the bid process, there was a series of requests for information, and when we respond to their request for information, we issue an addenda. So it's a clarification of the drawings or any answers we had to their questions. And actually, we extended the due date, that's the third addenda.
So these were not additions to the project. These were simply answering questions.
In our case, it was mostly a request for information and clarification.
Guys, coming back, suggestion or recommendation for the other project that opened last week.
We're gonna make some calls and do a little bit of questions with the. We can try to do that by Thursday, but that's most likely gonna take a little more time.
And the construction schedule for this particular, for the fourth courtroom is still the same. Anything changed, Andrew, and from your mind in terms of when this gets done?
Not as of this moment. In those addenda, Carl, for competition's sake, we confirm that all the contractors addendum, so that everybody's on a level playing field.
And there were 5 total bids, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. It is 10:07 and we will stand in recess till 10:15. We'll come back for budget hearings with
All right. Maybe that check was for Cliff. I still show we're white on the recordings. Never thought of that. Let's look at the check-in with.
Picture your sheet that has numbers on it. I think people.
That is sure.
Write them down.
Here you go. And take a picture of
I
this.
want to look at this one real quick, and if I wrote down 3,500 for a D.
Good morning. It's 10:30. We are back in session. We have been joined by Amanda Miller and to discuss the wastewater treatment department and discuss your budget. You want to give us a quick overview?
Commissioners had approved a 3% rate increase annually for wastewater budget. As you know, I don't always see that, so I'm being conservative in just estimating around 2%, receiving that for this next year, which is around $82,000 more, overall. But our budget is set at $3,887,600. I have budgeted everything literally to the penny. As you can see that our salary lines, of course, have gone up as we have people retiring and trying to fill these open positions, and wage increases, as well as our insurance lines have increased, which I'm sure others have talked about, making it a little bit more impactful. Our biggest impact on my budget is paying for sewer treatment services from other divisions, such as Belleville, City of Mansfield, Shelby. That takes generally 47% of the budget, overall budget. I don't know that anything is really outstanding there. We try to use the budget to make repairs. We have a lot more done through our budget, and sometimes I actually predict. So our capital improvements is still there to be utilized for other projects that we've got going on. I don't know if you want me to address my capital improvement, straight into my capital improvements this year. The capital improvements fund is, things have been pushed, things have to change sometimes, but there's a couple of things that had to be adjusted due to the fact that we're past our end of useful life for several of our items, such as our UV system. It needs to be rehabbed, retro.
Talked about that for a long time, haven't we?
Yes, well, we knew it was coming, and we actually are in our 15th year, and they said the useful life is normally around 12 years. In reality, they told us 15 when it was put in, but reality is 12. So it's been one of those things that we knew was coming, getting to the point where it has to be done. It's going to cost more to Band-Aid it than it is to replace it. We're going to do an emergency shower. Due to some arrangements, historically, our buildings do not have an operating shower anymore. And some things have come up to where we would like to actually be clean if we're covered.
Yes.
Glad to see that.
So those changes have happened, and then I need to do a paving project. I'm gonna be losing some suspension on these trucks if I don't get the parking lot fixed. The wear and tear of all the heavy trucks going in and out, it needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. So that's my plan for 2025. I'm still looking at moving forward with the Belleville project. I know, Tony, you asked about I&I and stuff. We don't have a lot of I&I there, but part of the project that ARP is paying for and some of the monies that we need to provide are going to come from the capital improvements budget for that. And then we're going to move forward in looking at doing the Crestwood system, getting it designed so that we can deal with lining that clay pipe or replacing. We've made some small repairs over the last couple of years. They seem small to us because they get expensive when we're doing one little area at a time. So I'd like to get that bigger project in place.
Questions?
Not for me. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Yep.
Told you that before, haven't I?
I do my
And nothing. It's a very good budget.
I think you got your priorities in all the right places, particularly for the capital. And you're doing the right thing, so. Good to me.
We don't have anybody with the press, do we? Okay, 10:35. We will stand in recess.
The lobby.
Talk about F&E. This is the one.
It is 11 o'clock. We've been joined by the treasurer's office. And Mr. Treasurer,
Hi.
we have a budget here and you brought it over. Why don't you fill us in a little bit?
Okay. Is anybody out in TV land?
Nope.
Man, people don't think the treasurer's budget is all that exciting.
Yeah, they think
You know what?
when their taxes
It's
go up.
really
like,
not that exciting.
We
You
like,
know what? I think they're right.
like
It's
non-exciting.
really not that exciting. Tony had said something about the, we asked for $2,000, $2 million,
Yeah.
$2,000 for our lobby. And there's some pictures behind me, which nobody can see because there's nobody out there.
I can see him.
Well, there's nobody out there. But anyway, in my travels around the state, different treasurer's offices, you know, with the land bank and stuff, I don't know of anybody that's got all the pictures to go all the way back to the county.
And I'll tell you, looking at some of those pictures, most of those guys are better looking than you, Hamilton.
That's not hard to have happen.
And they had more hair. They say.
Have more hair, especially on their face. They got a lot more some on their faces. What I thought I would do is I wanted to go talk to, is it the Spider Graphics people? I thought I would go talk to them and bring these along and just say, you know, what can we put together to put out in the lobby to showcase these pictures? Plus, I would like to, and you tell me if I'm wrong, there are four courthouses in the entire history. I think there was one that was almost like a block
I
house.
think it was one blockhouse. And then they had another one.
Then there was another one that was in the park. Then that one, then this one.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I wasn't alive for all of those. I would.
Do any pictures exist or drawings or images of the earliest ones?
There are pictures.
Of the first?
I know there's pictures of the one prior to this one.
Yeah.
Not sure about the, well, I bet there's something of the
It's on the
blockhouse.
blockhouse.
One was in the blockhouse
Well, and you might be right.
building at the park, and then this one.
Might be right, but anyway, what I want to do is get that, I want to talk to our historic people. And I would like to have, you know, if there was 4 courthouses, I'd like to have that incorporated. Whatever we're gonna do here, to kind of show that like these guys were in this courthouse and these people, these were in this one. And I don't know if this is kind of banner.
Gotta watch out for that spider signs, guys, though. He's tricky.
They're all tricky. But I don't know how we do, I mean, I don't know if it's something that you can, well, I don't know. I just want to go talk to them and I
Probably have
want a little money in my pocket.
They probably see a lot of stuff like this, maybe.
Well, I don't know.
Or-
I mean, I looked on their website and there's a lot of different things they do.
Does DRM do anything like that?
PRM could, but I mean, Doug would be fine at Spider to start there. And if not, he's certainly gonna know who might be able to do it.
Sure.
If he says, look, I can't do it, or that's not in our wheelhouse. Oh, he can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, but that's what I'm asking for. It's just the money to have in my pocket to go talk to some people. See what we got. I do have DTEC money. I could spend it on this too.
How about the F&E check protector? I noticed that increase is 60%.
F&E, if you remember history, we came and talked to you about our kiosk. A lot of kiosk and the fees to run the kiosk and run our other stuff is really what's boosted. You didn't have that.
Do people use the kiosk?
The kiosk has not been adopted like I would hoped it would have. I think there are two reasons, and we're working on them both. They're both software items. Number one is if you come in and you have multiple bills,
Okay.
you can only do one bill at a time. You cannot go and find each one of your bills, put them together, add them all up, and then make your payment. So that's a software change that's
Means they have to write multiple checks.
As it sits right now, yes. And really most people, please understand, most people come in here with one bill. 2, you know, a side, they got their house and a sidewalk. So it's part of the reason I think that it's not getting adopted as much as I'd like. The other reason is it shuts itself off. It goes to sleep as computers do. I think we need to put a whole different type of software where it's gonna tell us a
Is that possible?
little story. Well,
I would imagine,
we're working on that with F&E where it needs to tell a story. Here's what I
What does
did.
it take to wake it up?
You go over and touch it. If you touch the touch screen, it'll come back on.
Oh, that's not a problem then, is it?
Well, I think the perception that a person has when they walk in the door and they look at it and it's blank, it's like, well, that's.
So maybe.
I think that's the issue there. So it needs to have some, and you can't just leave it, say, like Richland County.
how did we not think of that when we implemented it with multiple bills?
I did.
Yes, other
I didn't.
places.
I didn't think of it and I didn't think of
But I'm
this.
saying, how did F&E not think of that?
In my opinion, people don't use it because if they make all the trouble to come down here, find a place to park, they want to hand that check to a person that hands them back.
Unless it's tax season and they see a big line and they can walk right into the kiosk.
I think there is some resistance and the resistance to it, I'll give you this, Daryl. The resistance to it is I got a check for $2,000. I'm not sure I want to trust this thing with it. And I think there is a resistance to it because of that.
A lot of money.
But I think that can be overcome. And that is different than when you go to Kroger's and you got $60 worth of groceries. $60 is $60, but $2,000 is.
I can't go to Kroger's for $60.
I can. I don't buy, you can only get a couple things. You get the little cart for that. But I think those are some of the resistance.
Well, the one other
I think we
question.
can overcome.
One other question I had was, we talked about where we would be on interest earnings for 2024. You have estimate, not that this is a big deal, at 3 million for this year. We've already well exceeded that. So why, just curious as to why.
No, that was last year.
No, you have 2024 estimate, 3 million.
Yeah, that,
Yeah,
That's just last year's budget number.
but
That was-
I know, but
Well, the 3 million, if you remember back, we were asking ourselves, when was the Fed gonna get involved and drop that rate? I think it should have been dropped a lot sooner than it did, but that's why I'm not on the Fed. But and I think you understand this. A lot of our interest, I mean, we've got a great portfolio. It really is in great shape right now and it's really laddered out well. But some of the big money we make is when we have that first half tax collection and I'm sitting on 80, 90, $100 million that's sitting at Star Ohio making 5 3/4 where we almost hit. It's already at 5 now. It's dropped to 5 and I think we'll see another drop from the Fed. I don't know when and I don't know.
feel good on 3.7 next year.
I think 3.7 is gonna be okay, because I think we've got a good portfolio. But a lot of this will depend upon what the Fed does. Because remember, rates go up slowly and come down quickly.
Right. Well, I think that's fair. I mean, we're already at 3.7 now. We still got 3 months. So that's saying, hey, we probably will make less than this year, but that's still a comfortable amount.
We'll
So,
make less next year than we made this year. There's no way around that. Just because of what's happening with Star Ohio and how much money that represents to us. I mean, that's a lot of money.
okay. I think
I'm comfortable with that.
all your proposed pay increases are very reasonable. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. You're not asking for anything exorbitant. And you answered my question on the lobby and the F&E increase, and I don't have anything else.
I mean.
Okay.
Really anxious to see how this thing will come out.
I am too. I
I
don't,
think they'll group them by, the first 4 were in this.
no, I don't know. As I say, that was just an idea I had of like, because I mean, we have people that come in the office that like, they just come and look at these. It's not, I mean, people that come in, they're not even paying or anything. They see that and they want to look at them. And I don't know. I think there's interest in that. I think there's interest in history. I got a lot of people that come in my office. When you mail out 70,000 tax bills.
Are they subject to fade or do they have to be treated or?
Well, the glass that they're under right now is like an archival glass. like you would use in a museum. It's a UV protective glass. The board that they're mounted on is an acid-free board. You would do in a museum, an art museum. I mean, I did it the right way. And I did this out of my own pocket, just so you know.
Oh, it's good to commemorate history. That's not a lot of money.
Well, I think we should do something.
Who did the lettering? That was hand done, right?
There was a girl that I went to high school with. She put all this together for me. She was really good at, lettering.
Sure was.
Nice job.
In reading that, I discovered,
Barton, if you could digitize it, we could put it on our monitors. I mean, I've heard enough people say they're tired of looking at some of our faces. So anything we can do to add to the content.
Scott Schaus, before he passed away, he came and got these a few years ago and took them down to the museum, took them all apart. He digitized all the pictures.
Oh.
I've got a disc somewhere and I know Scott I know the museum has one. So I'm sure that's going to be involved in this, whatever project we're going to do.
for the longevity of the treasures is impressive. In my lifetime, only 4 treasures.
Amazing. I would have never guessed that.
You're almost as old as I am. Your brother is anyhow.
Brother Ed.
I got nothing.
Neither.
Nope.
Okay.
Guys.
Thanks, guys.
It is 11:11 and we stand adjourned.